So I've chosen a couple pieces to look at today, a little bit of everything. And I wanted to start really quickly, but with some other announcements. I can't believe how many votes have been covered so far since I last stressed I want to see 500. But we're like a couple votes away. I really want to see 500 and above before I send out the resource pack and write up what we need. I'm going to start writing it up soon, but I'm not releasing it until you guys hit 500 votes. So those 500 people, I better see you in the day we do Critique Hour for this challenge theme. What is the challenge theme? It is a weapon design with its champion. A champion that comes from a culture that will be what you design the character through. So if you like these challenges, if you love what you see here, you really enjoy the challenges of 2017, there's always the Watcher tier. If you're looking for a tutoring alternative, we already have all our challenges up for this semester, for this month. For the Apprentice tier on Patreon, if you scroll down, you'll find it. You'll be able to join in on all the assignments, private assignments set up just for patrons. There's also a Hangout or a live stream private for patrons where I critique all of the patrons' assignments and the stuff that they hand in, and I distribute the video link to all of them. Or if there's enough space in a Hangout somewhere or in a server discussion, because we have a patron-only server, we'll probably have a server call or something like that. I'm not sure how I'll share my screen between like 20 users or however many we have now. So yeah. If you guys like to see this kind of stuff a little bit more, go ahead to Patreon. And if you want to cast a vote for this challenge, go to the Google Plus icon on my website and you'll be able to find it there. Just click that, sign in, read the rules, and then cast your vote. And hopefully we'll see it by the end of the week. You'll see your resource pack. And it'll be submitted with another announcement, so don't worry about finding where the resource pack will be. And I'll make a video describing, I'll debrief the brief with you guys and talk about what it is we're looking for in the challenge. So I think that's it. I'm trying to be as clear as possible with everything. And let's get started. So this is a model from the Portrait Studio model selection, and the problem with this study is I'm not sure what kind of light source you went for. When you're messing around with these types of models, when you're messing around with this type of stuff, it's really optimal for you to where are you? Just try as many shadows, as many shadow types, as many cast shadows, include as many as you can. Because cast shadows are the language that would direct the attention back towards the light source. Without the light source, we have no language. So what's happening is here, you have the same value stretching from this side of the rib cage all the way over here. When we have this kind of lighting setup, we have one continuous midtone moving across the entire, from like both hemispheres or both sides or both poles of the rib cage. This is not right. In the rib cage, there is so much motion, so much more than this annoying, ugly little gradient here that's caused by this little line that I just drew. Very boring, very ugly. Between this and this, which one is more interesting? Which one shows the more interesting type of setup? Obviously, this one. This one has a geometric and an organic pattern to it, which adds to the variety and the interest and the charm of painting this body part. And the beauty of especially the female body is that it has so much overlap between organic and geometric. And if your lighting only is set up so that it shows off the most basic gradients, and if you read it right, like given that you read it right, you always have the factor that you have a bad reference and you didn't follow the bad reference properly. This is an excellent reference, but you have control over the lighting here in Portrait Studio. Why not use it? So, you know, please do use them and control the lighting as much as you can. We've recently uploaded a tutorial on, or like a manual on Istebrak.com for how to use Portrait Studio. And I'm not sure if it's been published yet. Actually, I don't think I was done with it. Yeah, I was not done with it. I'm so sorry about that. That was a lie. It's not up just yet. It will be up sometime soon. There's just some last little touches that he has to make because of an update. So I think that's what I'm being told. All right, so there will be a manual up soon. I'm so sorry, I assumed that it was up. Oh. So again, use your lighting to your advantage. Use the control over the light to your advantage. There are so many different positions right now to mess around and show off different units. This one looks pretty good, but not without cast shadows all leaning over to one side. This always looks wonderful. If it's too dim for you, you can always raise the brightness just a little bit. And remember that in Portrait Studio, you control the background light. So if you're not moving the background light, you're not creating an accurate light environment. So the backdrop color should probably be increased when you raise the brightness to this level. So this is typically the brightness that I choose for all of this setup. Where is the object light? Still getting used to this. Okay. So I'm going to deal with that later, actually. So what I do here is I just choose a really nice setup. It's usually something that shows me the most cast shadows and shows off the rib cage area. So it's probably something like this. Is always beautiful. This is really, really nice. I love when the shadow is behind. This is something that you probably tried where you didn't have enough light casting shadows. So if I move my mouse this way and move it just a little bit over here, this would probably be the best setup right along here. And that's why it's Studio, it's in your control. This here would be the best setup. We've got Terminator shadows, we've got bounce light, we've got cast shadows, we've got the recessed area of the stomach showing, and you can always include a secondary light source. I'm just going to include one more and transfer all of this into your version. So I'm going to get a point light set up and enable it. I'm going to just increase its strength, turn on the indicator, and actually just move it this way. Move it outward just to bounce that light back so that we get some more bounce light. So that wonderful Terminator line you have over here. So now that we have the bounce light, we have a nice sharp cast shadow over here. You can probably really, really teach your brain some great language, and you know, just get in on all of the fun stuff that has to do with studying the form, and that's the cast shadows and diffusing the cast shadows and casting a Terminator. It's really, that's the best stuff about all of this, is that you get to everything that could possibly happen in the landscape is happening on a body. So I'm just gonna print screen this, or actually I'm just gonna use screenshot real quick and then just drag this over here. Alright, so let's get started on the paint over. So what I'm trying to say here is that you had from one edge of the rib to the other the same value, and what we did in our reference is we interrupted that. So we have one value showing the side of the cube of the body. Then we have this indentation for the rib cage. Then it goes right back up for her abdomen area and then moves across. And we don't really have one continuous value traveling for too long. So never have, and this is what you write back to me, this is the rule, this is the fundamental, to create intriguing light environments or intriguing light setups, never have one midtone travel for too long. Write that back to me. Okay. So that means that we are starting to indicate where the major areas are. So yes, I did change your light environment a great deal, but look at this armpit. You already had a lot of shadow over here. And what we do now is we just block. And this is exactly what I do with my form studies. I'm just always blocking in first, even if it's a female body, even if it has so many organic signatures, curves. You know, that's what I mean by organic. It's got so much curves. You think that, you know, you can start off with the soft brush like this. You really can't. Another problem is your light environment color. Just a little bit too dim. You can tell when your light environment color is too dim, when your background color is too dim, if your lasso can't separate background from object. Also, if it's wrong, you have a lot of highlights on the body without a light environment for the background to back it up. Light environment just means that the object is bright enough, lit enough so that the background is also possibly lit. Because so much light reached the object, it couldn't possibly reach the object and not reach the background. So you have to make sure you sync all the background stuff together. So I'm just raising this up. And then I am select inverse. I'm just going to do this and then just do that so I can have an organized transparency lock. That way I can start. So we cast the shadow from this direction, and now we're just blocking in. Okay, so you just block in according to each area. These are very, very vital because yes, they'll get blended out. Yes, we'll use our smudge brush on a pretty large paintbrush. And when you're doing figure studies, you have to use your smudge tool or any brush pretty large. You never get to a point where you're painting in lashes. That's really the biggest thing to remember when moving into figure drawing after you spent so much time drawing portraits. This is the biggest thing. Keep your brush large when painting figures because these are large areas of you know, landscape on the body. They don't really travel for too long without another change and you know, another mid-tone change halfway through. This sculpt is questionable. She's so skinny that her rib cage is bent inward when she raises her arms up, but she's got so much fat structure down here. I've always questioned that about this, but we've gotten our sculpts for Portrait Studio from all kinds of resources, so they're not all sculpted by myself or our modeler. I can't even say that word. All right, and so I'm just capturing all this and setting up a really, really nice terminator. A terminator line is this line right here, the leftover of the primary cast shadow being diffused by the secondary light inside. If you want to, you can study one primary light source. You can have that set up, but it's really not recommended for students that are trying to learn a light environment type that they can use in an illustration. If the illustration is always going to be dark, you know, if you know you're always going to be drawing dark stuff, then at this point you can, I guess, go ahead and always use darker studies. But it's not recommended. So as you can see here, I'm bringing in that secondary light source, but leaving behind some of the primary. This is exactly what happens. This isn't by all means a gradient enough. Radial shading happens on organic patterns more than geometric patterns. In fact, geometric patterns don't have gradients as much unless there's like a bounce light diffusing slightly. I'm just going to start smudging now. My brush is pretty large and my strength is high. Because again, when we're doing this kind of setup, our brush is very, very large because it's large pockets of fat, large spaces that we're moving into. And they all need to be represented. As you can tell, I'm delaying the cast shadow because the cast shadow, even though it's beautiful, I still consider it an accessory. And a cast shadow is something that you add later on. It's not something you paint because a student will accidentally start painting around it and it'll get in their way and it'll confuse them. All right, so what we do with cast shadows, what do we do with them? We delay them. Write that back. Always delay your cast shadows. It's just always going to be there, kind of like sticking out like a sore thumb, forcing you to paint around it, and then that might cause you to interrupt all your values. Look at how much fun these terminator lines are. They're so much fun. And they really bring out that extra volume, that extra dimension, that z-axis on the side, just what's happening to the body that's really building up. As for your original sketch, I don't think you have all of these indicators intact. I think you have unnecessary bumps here and there that could be corrected. Take a look at this over here. We've got the top of the cylinder, then the cast shadow, then the lower part right over here. This is all stuff that you learn how to read from form studies. But the beauty of this kind of setup is it's already grayscale, so you're already seeing so many form studies. So imagine, we're getting such a read right now, and we've delayed our cast shadows. I have to include this one soon. This one right here, this triangular one, because I'm trying to show the separation between the breast area. And for anything low mass, like breasts or something like that, that's always going to be more susceptible to the pull of gravity, which means you have to start using your concave C shape, which means that you're doing this. You're doing more of that. All right, and all the time students are always exaggerating the side of the breast. It's not, it really just seams right back into the body. I mean, it doesn't just have its own orbit, it seams right back in. So don't over exaggerate the side. It's always the lowest point down here where the most of the mass is being pulled by gravity. And this is just only specific to female bodies. Unless you're drawing a very overweight male body, then you can, then there's the moves that you can experiment with and do studies just for those. So this little rib cage line is working like a symmetry line. So exactly where I would put a symmetry line is where I would set that up, right over here. And just starting to detail a little bit. And again, detail isn't shrinking our brush when it comes to figures. It's about edge work. Edge work is the language, as the detail language of figure drawing. So write that back. And I've been delayed. I have had a lot of pent up. Write that back to me. So y'all just you better get ready, because I'm gonna ask you for one every couple minutes. And the notes from today better be good. They better be some good notes I see today. Okay. And so again, primary light source illuminating on this section. Let me just enlarge. All right, primary light source stopping here because the cast shadow started because the body rotated away from the light source. The core shadow started, I mean, and then it's a cast shadow, core shadow, same thing, just different visibility or different perspectives. And then we have the secondary starting, ending at the terminator line of the edge of the core shadow. Always leave behind some core shadow, which is what a terminator is, or because it'll give you that extra bit of form, that extra beautiful touch. The closer you get to the light source, just take a look. The more contrast you have, the lower you move, the less contrast because of the bounce light. So that's something you need to pick up in your reference as well. And then it's all just blocking. One block for the side of the cylinder, one block for the top, one block for the middle, one block for the little piece here that's exactly the same value as the middle, and then one block for the final shadow. Again, cast shadows are brought in at a later time, all the time. All right, so we have couple more little places I have to take care of before I start blending. I'm going to just start blending the arm instead, actually. Okay, so I'll show you when to start using your soft brush, and I'll do it for one section. I can't paint over the whole painting, but when we start using the soft brush is when we absolutely fundamentally need the radial shading. Radial shades are built up values, built up like a sand pile on each other to express the most volume. We also have a little shine here in between each muscle group and an edge of this muscle group with the remainder. So we have to, first, I'm going to just edge this out. And you see how much fun it is to change your light source. Mess around with it. The default isn't the best one. The best one is different for each and every single model in Portrait Studio, so really mess around with it. So I'm just detailing here. So again, I'm finding the edges. The edges are the detail when it comes to figures. Nothing else. There's no tiny little freckles you could add. There's no eyes. There's nothing. Okay, so again, I'm starting to smudge and blend. Smudge just means blend, and I'm very specific about this because that's the equivalent of the real world. All right, and then we bring in our soft brush. The soft brush I'm bringing in a little bit, actually I'm just going to make it the background value, and I'm just going to show you what I mean by radial shades. I'm going to throw in my first, it's too much feed, all the way down opacity when it comes to radial shading. That's my first brush stroke. I'm looking at my reference. My second brush stroke. See how I'm tapering slowly and surely away from this edge, because this edge, you can even paint it in. You can even cheat a little bit and paint it back in if you paint it away too much, because this little terminator is the best thing about figure drawings. It is the best thing. It is what you should always look for. It tells you where the light source is, which is a good thing. Make friends with this terminator line. I think I added too much. It's all right. So I'm just going to keep smudging away. And you see these little highlighters right here, this little one, this little one. I'm going to block those back in. They're small areas. Smaller areas don't act as gradients. So I'm going to explain that to you in a second. A small area, like a tiny little space, doesn't act as a gradient because it's not big enough. You know how you're on the earth and the earth is one big sphere, but you're on the earth and all you can see is flat. That's how you should treat every small area. Consider it as flat, because it's so small, it isn't large enough to show the full curvature, because that curvature is so large. So what that means is I can block smaller areas of a figure, but whenever I am dealing with a large expansive space on a figure specifically, this doesn't always apply to portraits, because portraits have a lot of geometry in them. We don't store fat in our faces as compared to our bodies. So right over here, I can block because it's a small area. But if I'm dealing with some kind of edge shadow, so because the body rotates away, we end up having little edge shadows just out here. You see that? It's not a shadow. This area faces the light, but why do we put a shadow? Because it's rotating away from us slightly. I'm going to actually just be really, really gentle with that. Okay, and again, I'm just going to blend away at these, blending only one part, preserving as much of the edge as possible. Some highlights are pretty radial, and if you've done your cylinders, you've done your floating blobs in space, you'll be prepared for this. That's why we did this. That's why we assigned so many. It's because of this. Step 1, you can hardly see it. Step 2, step 3. And you see how it's building up ever so slightly. I'm kind of exaggerating what I'm seeing in the reference just for the demonstration. Okay, so this is what we're learning when we're doing these form studies, and this is what it's all for this moment. So another big thing about figure drawing is the edge of the body. It's got to be just a sharp edge. It's not like hair or a face that has hair surrounding it that creates a nice little halo against the background. The body has no halo surrounding it that'll forgive a fuzzy edge. The body requires a sharp edge against the background. It's simple. The body ends, the background begins. Where you used to have a line, you replace it with an edge. And we can see stacking because it's in 3/4 view. The breast is in front of these little, what are they called? They're called, no, they're not called. They're called, it's just the lateral muscle area. I'm not sure what they're called. I forgot what the muscle's called. Okay, and so we have this little breast moving in front. Actually, before that, I'm just going to, look at what I'm doing. I don't give a damn. I'm just taking that edge all the way down because I can just layer this breast back in front of it. But anything that gets in the way of the successful edge, if you're not trying that, you're going to end up doing something like this, and you're not going to have a strong edge. Just take that edge and just cast it all the way down. We're rendering from arm to arm, so we're kind of just using that brush to create a nice believable edge, and then we can just save it again by painting it back. Okay, and this is one way that you have to learn if you don't want to be layer dependent. So you see over here how the breast is, here the breast is in front of the torso, but here it's outside. That kind of stuff is okay. If you don't have it exactly as it is in the reference, that kind of stuff is forgivable. But this extra little bump over here, that's not forgivable. So we got to clean that up. Okay, I kind of exaggerated the highlights, but that's okay. And there are some areas that are still shadowed that the secondary doesn't reach. And I think your version is just a little bit long. Same exact thing for the breast area. After we block in all the major areas, we start blending per form type. Right, so if it's a big plushy place, we plush it up. If it's very, very rough, very rocky, we bring out our blocking brush. All right, when we smudge, things come together. So just like I say, give your edges a chance before you depend on contrast. Let your gradients work first before you feel like you need to bring in any contrast. Let your gradients work. Sometimes all you need for a figure is a gradient per area. So a gradient is essentially what radial shading is, just built up on a z-axis with volume. But give your blending a chance, because the blending is the texture of the skin. Skin is very, very blendable when it comes to art. It's a very blend needy place. So this little patch over here, so the smaller the place, the more I can block. And then this area gets a little bit more, so I can use, see how I radial shaded, even though it was technically, you know, it was like a blocking brush that I used. Okay, and then I'm just gonna start throwing some cast shadows down. These cast shadows, again, give them a chance. They will create the read you're looking for. So what have we learned? When it comes to figures, experiment with your light source. When it comes to large areas, use a larger smudge brush like I'm doing right now. When it comes to smaller areas, use a blocking brush. You can also use a soft brush for larger areas. Always establish your core shadow before attempting secondary bounce light. This is one big, oopsie, this is one big cast shadow right over here. Oh, it's fine, I can always fix it. And just like that. Alright, so keep all that in mind. If you have Portrait Studio, try this figure. Mess around with some light sources. It'll help you. Don't forget your terminator. Don't forget your bounce light. Don't forget your smudging as delayed and that it will happen eventually. So don't overdo it and overcompensate with excessive contrast or over-dependency on your details or trying to rush details. There's nowhere to detail. You have to invent anatomy for you to detail it. Everything is molar. Everything is larger than the face. Look at the collarbones and compare them to the eyebrows. The collarbones are so large compared to the eyebrows. So that means that when you come to the collarbones, which are pretty much the more detail, it's like a detail trap. The collarbones, students are always over rendering them. It looks like some sort of really, really bony, skeletal, scary kind of like thing, like something uncanny when they over render that area. You can see that it's a very large area, and large means increase the size of your brush. Okay, so the body is much larger than the face. Whatever, and if you're drawing the face and the body in the same study or the same painting, you are going to be comparing your brush sizes a lot. What the brush size, how small it got on the face is going to be nowhere near how small it can get when it comes to the body. I'm just getting in another cast shadow. All right, slowly but surely it's starting to make a little bit of sense. And what I was saying earlier about the breasts kind of indenting inward, I don't know what just happened. Are you guys seeing this? There's like a ghost controlling my, I don't know what just happened with my computer. Filter, liquefy, there we go. That was really, really weird. So what I was saying earlier is indent the breast down. Do you see that? It's a really great indicator. Even if the breasts are being pulled up by the arm, indent them down and lower the size or the mass of the breast towards the bottom. Right, I'm just refocusing all of this. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. This is what a figure study is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a kind of remembrance of what your form studies were. So always try a light background, mess around with your cast shadows, forget that it's a body, and think of it as a building. Okay, so that was really study intensive. Let's go to something a little bit more fun. Any questions at all about this piece? Set Portrait Studio to not run in the background. Oh, okay. I haven't done that. I just really love rendering the collarbone. I like the bony skin skeletal look. Yeah, but it can look very strong if you're painted a very soft face. So just because you like doing it, make sure that you're matching it to the characterization of the portrait. Oh, the before and after. Sorry, I forgot that. I don't know, you guys love the before and after so much. I've been really avoiding them. I don't know why. Write at Istebrak if you have a question. Yes, please. I still see I have the issue of rendering the collarbone. Yeah, step away from that. Compare it to the eyebrow, which is one of the most rendered areas compared to the eyes. Compare it to the size of the eyes and how small the lash is. What is a lash compared to an eyebrow? Sounds so Shakespearean, but it's a very, very large area, so make sure you're not over rendering. Let me see what the questions are. What do you mean when you talk about core shadow? How does it differ from any other shadow? The core shadow is the most immediate shadow that describes the light on the object. So it's the most immediate thing that happened when the first light was turned on. The first light turns on, the first shadow that is cast. That is the core shadow, responding to the strongest light source nearby. A good photographer or a good artist, which means we have to be photographers as well, we have to think like photographers, and movie directors and cinematographers, we have to think about all of this stuff, is you have the object, you have the light source, and you have a primary light source. The rule of thumb is always make sure you have one light stronger than the rest. If you have two primaries, you're not going to have a core shadow. You're going to have an object that's glowing with two cast shadows that are pretty bright. So the rule is have one light source strong enough to cast dark core shadows and diffuse them with smaller secondary light sources that'll create the bounce light or the the diffusion. What is a lash compared to the eyebrow? First shadow equals strongest shadow, which equals the core shadow. The first shadow meaning the first light source. First means primary light source. So core shadow equals the main shadow. Exactly. So let's talk about this piece here. My kind of recommendations for this piece is you have such a strong light source behind and you're trying to show like some sort of demon person. I'm not sure what that is growing off her face. Is that a heart? I'm not really sure, I can't tell, but this light source situation doesn't work unless you have it in silhouette. Either get rid of that background color or change it. Honestly, I recommend you keep it because it's a very eerie scene. It's got a lot of darkness to it, so I'm going to darken her. She'll still be visible, but compared to that light behind her, she'll be a little bit more dramatic as needed. So I'm going to shift everything over into the blues, desaturate, but bring back the background. Okay, what this will do is it will give us the cool versus warm setup. I'm actually going to have to redo that now that I see where we were coming from. So the background over here wasn't warm enough. Alright, so it seems like it's the daytime in like a castle courtyard, and there's just a very, very angry ghost person over here. And then I'm cooling her down, lowering the opacity, lowering the saturation, maybe raising the highlight just a little bit. And I'm just going to apply that to the lower layer. Very, very bright. I think that's with my edits though. Okay, so when we do something like this, it feels a little bit more dramatic. It really feels like we are telling a story with the light source, which is what a lot of you are lacking when you paint. You kind of just assume that you'll be able to do whatever you want and it'll all come together when you're done drawing the costume or you're done detailing. It's really not how it works. So what I'm doing over here is I'm going to actually select inverse. I'm going to raise some of this highlight from the background down here, and I'm just going to do it like this. Oh, what did I do? Did I deselect? Yeah. Select inverse, new layer. And I'm just going to let some of that light come through to kind of fill the room. You darkened the lower half a little bit too much and it felt like the room wasn't complete. It just felt like it was very closed off. So when we add this, I'm just going to add a little bit more. We can start applying all of the silhouette conditions on her, which are going to make her look even more important. And that means the subsurface scattering on her hair, subsurface on her dress. I'm just going to lighten and then lower. So just from here to here, we're already having so much drama. We already see so much drama. If you want to get that green back, which is that eerie, spooky ghost green, you can. if you want that. I really don't feel like you need it. So what I'm doing next is I'm just going to start using some dodge tool. And I'm going to bring in that bounce light on her. I mean that subsurface scattering on her. It's okay if I do it on the outside. I'm actually going to get the old layer and adjust. So it's a very medieval kind of costume. Feels very supernatural. So you really want to exaggerate the ghosts, and you get away with it as well because you're using the symmetry, which is very trending for like the medieval art. It's okay if it looks gross, because what we're gonna do is go before we started dodge tooling and paste, and then we're just gonna get rid of all of this. You'll see in the before and after how wonderfully dramatic, how much drama it brings in when we put the light first. All right, then there's a cast shadow right across here. A cast shadow of the majority of her head or her skull on her hair. It's okay, we blend all of this away. This stuff over here. So your light environment wasn't intact. You were representing the wrong kind of setup. And that's when we don't know how to illustrate. When you illustrate, you graduate into illustration and you do an oath. You say, I am a graduate into illustration, and I hereby vow that I will always put the light first. But if you're a student and you're stuck in portraits that are a little bit close up, you are not ready to take that oath because you don't appreciate what kind of role the light plays in an illustration. It's no longer about the portrait, but a lot of artists think it is, and this is where we make our mistakes. I'm going to start throwing in some bounce light here. I hereby, what is it? I hereby vow that I am up to no good or something. Carrying the light all the way down the canvas instead of darkening the bottom allows us to continue the silhouette, bringing in subsurface scattering and stronger, more dramatic highlights and cast shadows. The light environment is God. Exactly. So I'm just going to use my bounce light here to show, my blocking brush to just show the different layers of hair, even though we do have some hair coming through, some light coming through the hair, I'm just showing where that happens. Her neck is extremely thick. It needs to be much more thin. And I'm just going to turn this into a more pink color. Then I'm going to borrow some of that color. So subsurface scattering is twofold: the saturation and the highlight. And the saturation is a combination of the color of the light source and the color of the object the subsurface scattering is applied to. So I might do it as soft light. See that, how wonderful it looks when the hair is layered and the light's just peeking through. There's some light being thrown onto her shoulders. Her whole head is casting a shadow. And then I'm just going to use the color layer. Oh shit, no, that's not what I want. I'm just going to use the color layer here. And then again, I'm just going to go back to before I did all this so I can sharpen this cast shadow over here. Every cast shadow starts off sharp, or sharper than its tail. Every cast shadow root is sharper than its tail. Write that back to me. And when I say root, I mean if it's a grounded object. If it's a floating object, then it's consistently distant from the surface it's casting on, then it's going to be equal. Filter, liquefy. If it's not tilted or anything, like a floating cube on the casting shadows on the ground. And then we have the thinner neck. We need a lot more shadow on her for this to really work. So this needs to be much more bright. And I'm just gonna, now that I have everything in control, I'm just going to use Dodge tool over here. Okay. And I'm gonna follow up with a sponge tool on desaturate. And then again, some more Dodge tool just out here. But I'm gonna have to combine this background color with the hair. Again, why am I combining this color here? Combining the color to be faithful to the light environment. Exactly, because a light environment is all about the light source first. And the light source comes with a color, so you also have to think about its color. Okay, and so I'm going to get another darken mode. Try to cool down my value just a little bit, probably towards the purples. Lower my opacity all the way and just start darkening her. Okay. Some other stuff happens, which is the glow of the background on top. So all of this wonderful stuff just peeks through. I'm just going to throw it as a halo around her and then delete wherever it kind of leaks onto the face too much. So starting at the face and then deleting upward. So before, after. It's kind of a nice touch. Really makes it feel like she's in this glowing environment. And then right after that, I'm going to apply that everywhere else. So I'm going to start off at the top, casting the light in one certain direction because probably the sun is higher on one side. And again, deleting where it kind of affects her too much and deleting along the edges of the canvas. That's too much. Kind of like trying to show the direction of that. As for your composition, I mean, you can't critique something and not find 1,000 other problems. As for your composition, you seem to have bent the background on the horizon. So you've kind of leaned the background horizon, but not her. Also, if she's a specter, it might not hurt to kind of show the background against her. So she's so translucent that you can see the background. That might be interesting. So you have her translucent all the way down to this pillar right over here. Kind of feels like she's actually a ghost. Then there's the colors that you chose. So some of these colors need to be cooled down. Some of them need to be warmed up. I think you need to desaturate her and just completely desaturate. So this is an excellent kind of movement forward. So I'm just going to go to color burn. Actually color dodge, what am I saying? And just apply some of that shine on her little dress here. Maybe some hair is falling downward toward the, see why I'm zoomed out so far? That's the only way to really assess properly the gradients that happen. But yeah, I think some hair should fall on her shoulders just a little bit. And I'm just going to darken the top of her head. The closer she gets to the cast shadow, the darker her face gets, because the cast shadow is stronger, or the silhouette, which she is a cast shadow, so closer she gets to the origin. And then we've got value sharing around the nose, which is a bad idea. One of the biggest fundamentals, the most broken fundamental, I guess, around the face. Gotta get rid of that. Then you have eyebrows that are pretty much drawn in. You need to smudge them out, make them match. The makeup of the medieval times was very, very kind of like an immaculate skin, like untouched, very virgin-like. They did everything they could to powder their eyebrows and make them look like they didn't have any makeup on. I know it's kind of counterintuitive, But the point was that makeup was very deceptive and evil, and what they, you know, beauty became very virgin-like and angelic, always trying to represent that in women. So be careful not to kind of over-represent modern-day makeup on a medieval character. You can see this in all the Waterhouse paintings, especially the one of Lady of Shalott. Was that Waterhouse? Yeah, it was, but I don't think this is the one I mean. Yeah, I think it is. It's very, very nude type skin, not much color in the face. They deliberately get rid of the color. Something similar to here. I think it is Waterhouse. So that's pretty much all of my suggestions for this. Not sure, again, I'm not comfortable with the color. I feel like our wash should start somewhere specific. Kind of overused soft brush today, but I gotta get through all of these. I'm just gonna throw some of that color layer of the light environment on her so she matches her environment a little bit more. I think you've over-represented her breastplate. It's kind of a little bit low and very, very large. And I'm probably going to have to darken the edges of the canvas with a multiply or something. Just a little bit, that's too much, Jesus. Alright, her position in the canvas is not a good position, but it's still acceptable. I'm actually going to get that exact light source color. Her cast shadows are really dressing up the painting. So I'm trying to let them speak a little bit more. Just actually have an intriguing light source. So pretty much the lesson of today, or the theme is, and it should always be in your mind, your cast shadows and you're responsible for good cast shadows, and this is because you're experimenting with multiple light source angles. So the light source angle plays the biggest role in the success of your light environment. It's really a very, very important role. You could use some more like chest detail just around here, something of the space of the breastplate or something like that. I feel like you're kind of missing out on a lot of stuff. I'm going to just get rid of that excessive pink that I added. It's starting to look like an illustration, is it not? You could shrink her to make the room around her look a little bit more large. You can enlarge her to make everything look a little bit more small and like a close-up. But this is definitely a step forward from here. I recommend you do all of these. This is, if you correct this, this is a definite portfolio piece. Definitely something wonderful. So I'll give you a before and after now. Before, after. Okay, I kind of miss the contrast around her face, but I don't miss the awkward lighting, the very flat lighting. Doesn't feel like an actual, like a room or environment. Something really nice could be showing some of the light in between her arms. That would actually be wonderful to break that silhouette mass a little bit, make her feel like she's walking. It's kind of like making her a little bit more masculine. So I'm going to make it closer to her waistline. Alright. Something a bit more like that, and then we just completely smudge it out. I'm just going to smudge it out like this. I should have used blur, but this seems to be working. Okay, and then if you want, if you have to, I would just use shadows very, very carefully to bring back some level of contrast around the face. If you want a secondary bounce light, something magical, something nearby, something, some extra little bit, maybe a light coming from the bottom, you can bring back some of that contrast without destroying the silhouette. So you can do something like this, you know, something nearby that's casting some light on her so you can reveal her. Illustrations are all about the direction of your light source. They're not about your character. All right, you may think they are, but they're not. actually going to move this closer to where you had it originally. I'm not sure why her hair turned pink. It just became pink. It was brown before. You can feel free to turn it back brown and darken these areas here. And just add that yellow. Okay. Gesture is boring. You could have made a bit more of an interesting gesture. But it does look like, you know, something eerie. It does make you feel, you know, something's coming, and I like illustrations like that. Okay. Right. Any questions about this? Forgot to ask. Lighting can do everything for your piece if you use it correctly. Yeah, as long as it's the first question you asked. Lots of small fixes add up to a lot. Yep. Especially for advanced students who don't know how to improve their work. Focus on the small stuff. Focus on the details. Yes, you are responsible for good cast shadows. Excellent. Hello, Elun Akbar. It feels like a scene for a comic, and the character is supposed to be very shadowed and less light in parts. Well, the way the light was set up, it was a cast shadow instantly. When the light is behind your character, you are the silhouette. The character, sorry, is the silhouette. You are looking at the cast shadow. Just because the face is facing forward doesn't mean we break all the rules of light. Write that back to me. Really think about what I just said. Doesn't matter where the face faces. The light is the light. You're facing the light or you're not. Follow the rules. Unrelated to this piece, but I have a question. I just flipped my piece upside down. It looked a lot better. How does that even work? It's just because you're seeing, this happens with faces as well. An upside down face looks prettier. And it's just because you're seeing things in a new perspective. You're breaking your, it's not a flip of the either side hemisphere, which can show you mistakes. If I flip my face, I'm just weirded out. I'm like, who is this monster, and why do people, why am I not hiding from people? Why am I not in a dungeon? When I flipped the pictures of my face horizontally, but when I flip them vertically, it's the same thing. You're seeing the same face in exactly the same angle it was supposed to be in. Flip the face horizontally and then flip it vertically, and it won't be the same. So it's the same face, everything's still intact. Things look more beautiful because you're not allowed to assess exactly how intense the triangle is. So you flip the triangle, and because of it, you've preserved a lot of the beauty. You don't actually have a chance to assess whether or not the triangle is wide enough at the top. And it still looks prettier too. I'm not sure if it looks better. Maybe that's just your opinion about, you know, how you deal with the vertical flip and what your opinion is about the vertical flip. For me, things don't look better. Things just look different, and they look a little bit, the triangle is a little bit less easy to determine how, to use to determine how pretty the character is. Because the triangle is no longer top down. It's no longer wide at the top. Light is God. It doesn't give a damn where the face is facing. Exactly. Alright, so I'm just going to close this up. I don't think I have time for this piece today, but I'm not sure if you guys remember the last time I discussed what happens in a portrait when it is in this kind of angle. First of all, there's no primary. Everything is very visible. The face is very glamorous. She's supposed to look dangerous, but I really don't feel danger from her, especially because of her scrunchie. I think you should get rid of that. It looks a little bit silly, especially if the only green is the eyes, and you've got the scrunchie that is the god of all scrunchies because it's so important. You should just completely get rid of it. Unless you're painting a specific character, and you can just show a slight indication of it, a little bit lower, and then just desaturate the green. That's way too much green. It's not really helping. But saturation is too high. I can't really paint everything over, but saturation is too high. So I'm going to completely desaturate to fit the room. This is a dark, murky environment she's coming from. She should look like this. She's in a stormy environment. And this is the before and after. The detail you've used around the hair needs to be smudged way down. This is way too much visibility for tiny little hair. It's starting to look like horse hair. It has that icky, bad texture job. Now, I know I painted hair last night, but I smudged, and I smudged in many layers if you were there in the paint over, in the after hours. And so you'll see that I smudged and just didn't stop smudging. And every layer, every brush stroke of hair I added with a single pixel width brush, I smudged it away until it behaved like a collective piece. The smudging was like me adding hair oil. And that might help you over here. I'm also going to darken the lower part of the canvas. And again, the last time I did this, I added light from the sides. I made it match the environment. Close-ups like this are really intense. Be careful with stuff like this. Try to test the waters with your composition by using placeholders before you start rendering. I have a feeling, and I know this is probably true, it started off as a study and you rendered it out, but you can still salvage it as an illustration if you follow these steps and make sure there's light coming in from the sides. Maybe zoom her up a little bit more. Give her an expression. Her face is so boring. It's not doing so much right now. It's really boring me. It looks like a thumbnail from a beauty guru's video tutorial on YouTube. So you might just give her some expression. What is she? Is there a showdown? Is she looking at her enemy? Shouldn't she be smiling? Shouldn't she have one eyebrow up because she's got a couple tricks up her sleeve? Is she the protagonist, not the antagonist? And she's seeing her enemy for the first time. Shouldn't there be more shock in her face? But you know, I don't know why you guys are trying masterpieces if you're not prepared to appreciate the light source's role and tell stories. A masterpiece is an illustration. An illustration tells a story. If you're drawing just to make a pretty face, you are not telling a story. So stop trying to do illustrations and masterpieces if you don't know what it means to tell a story with your work. I'm not telling much of a story with my portraits, which is why I don't turn them into masterpieces. A lot of people ask me, when are you going to do a masterpiece? And it's because I have no story to tell, and I know I'm not going to be interested in telling one. All I care about is perfecting my studies and perfecting the kind of face that I draw. And that means that I am going to focus on the grayscale and not turn it into an illustration. But for you guys, it's even worse of a case. You guys don't even focus enough on anatomy when you do turn it into an illustration. And it just turns into a mess. And you guys should really start planning your illustrations, planning your composition before you try this. A little bit of fog, a little bit of expression, something better might actually turn this into an illustration. And I think that's it for today. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for following me here on Picardo. Hopefully we get our channel back and everything goes back to normal, but I like it here. I like the whole one stream thing, one stream key. I like how organized it is. I do find an issue with the fact that this area offers what it offers, but it's okay because it means our channel our stream will be protected. I'm not going to get muted for playing music or soundtracks, hopefully. It's not this big faceless, disgustingly faceless corporation. It's not a big behemoth where, you know, I'd rather there be a small, tiny little hentai community in this streaming than be on the same website streaming where that asshole Jake Paul, or whatever his disgusting name is, Logan Paul, posts a picture of a dead body. What he did was unforgivable, and that said, I know everyone's writing this, what he did was unforgivable, but to think that the same week that he did that, he got no strike, and I was struck. I'm not even sure what to think about all of this, but it's not fair, and I was comfortable over there, but again, it might have been a blessing in disguise. The influx of support I got was just unbelievable. I've never seen you all so active for me, and I really appreciate it. So it was a blessing in disguise because it brought us together, and I appreciate every single tweet you guys sent out. Thank you so much. I'm going to take some questions, and then I'm going to head out. Mixing portrait illustration is allowed since the portrait tells a story, but it isn't just a pretty face. Yeah, it's all about the story, so it's not, you're not going to focus mostly on the face, but you can if you want to detail it, but it'll be a big canvas. You shouldn't spend that much time on it. Other good thing about this stream is that, at least for me, the video screen is nice and big while still being able to see the chat. Oh yeah, that's true. Though you can pop the chat out. Nice. Thanks for the class and taking your time to post classes. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. You're very welcome, Waizu. She has many videos detailing why not to attempt masterpieces all the time. Thank you for that. What is the average, a good canvas size for a portrait in Photoshop for studies? I do 3,000 width, 3,500 length. It's still a very long canvas, so sometimes I lengthen it a little bit more depending on what I'm drawing. I usually post it on Instagram, which means I have to square it off. But Instagram's been allowing extended horizontal and vertical canvases. That's just as long as you have at least 3,000, 2,500 for the amount of detail you need. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a great day, guys. I will see you guys on Tuesday. I'm not sure what everything is what's gonna happen by Tuesday. I don't know if they're gonna get back to me. But if you guys are enjoying it here, I see no reason to leave. I like being able to announce on my website. I mean on my channel. That's what I like. You know, setting up the events, having the countdown, and you just go to one area to get all of me. I don't like being spread out over the internet too much. That's something I miss. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know if I don't want to be rude to Picardo and say I can't wait to get back. I really can wait. But again, it's unfair what they did, and I want that strike gone. My channel means the world to me. So sorry, all this talking. I will see you guys on Tuesday next, here or YouTube, wherever we're going to be. Thank you everyone for your support. I love you guys so much. To join, just go to istebrak.com. istebrak.com and click on the little Google Plus icon. Vote for your next, you know, for your topic of choice for our next theme. And if you're interested in Patreon, you can go click here and you'll find my Patreon. If you're interested in supporting this, even just as a watcher. Thank you everyone for watching. Have a great day, guys. Bye.